Hi, I'm Redjoy, and when I'm not trying to narrate history videos and slapping on silly jokes with my bad multicultural pronunciations, I'm also a high school history teacher. I've worked as a high school history teacher for more than a decade, and I've seen a lot of students who have a wide variety of writing and research skills, and I've helped a lot of them write essays in order to show their historical knowledge, their critical thinking abilities, and their communication skills. Now today, I'm going to tell you why your history essays fail and how you can make them better. Now, even if you squeak by with a passing grade, we both know that you can do a lot better. So, why do your history essays fail? It's because you're not following the most important rule. Follow the directions. Seriously, if you're writing for a school assignment or for an employer, follow their directions. In the professional world, if you were to work as an electrician, you wouldn't fix the lights outside of a house when your client clearly wants you to fix their circuit breaker, would you? Don't neglect what your teachers want you to do. They have a purpose for what skills they're trying to help you grow and what abilities you're expected to demonstrate with your assignments. If your teacher or your professor wants you to write an essay or complete one of the steps in a particular way, follow what they want, even if it contradicts what I'm going to tell you today. Basically, give your client what they want. So, understand that there are a few different kinds of history essays, such as narratives, persuasive essays, analytical essays, comparative essays, change over time essays, or cause and effect essays. Again, give your teacher or professor or employer or client what they want. Now, much of the advice that I'm going to give to you today is a bit general and can apply to many of these formats. One thing is necessary for all of these essays is that you need to have a thesis or a main idea. Now, your teacher may call these many different things: a thesis, a main idea, a central theme, a main point. This is a single sentence or a phrase that is what your essay is focused on. For this video, I'm going to call it a thesis. Just know that your teacher might call it something else. It's all the same idea. Now, when you're writing your essays, everything is going to reflect back to this thesis. Now, the clearer your thesis is, the easier it will be to support it, and the easier your essay is going to be. For this reason, I recommend making your thesis a closed thesis rather than an open thesis. This means that your thesis is going to have a clause statement or reasons why your thesis is true. For example, if you're asked to create a thesis about the fall of the Western Roman Empire, you could say, "Foreign invasions caused the Western Roman Empire to collapse." Now, this is fine, but you'll be a little bit unfocused with how to bring the content back to your thesis in an organized manner. By giving reasons or clauses to show why your thesis is true, you'll give certain research content an easy point to focus on when you're writing the essay, and that's done through those reasons and clauses. For simple essays, one reason to support your thesis statement might be enough. For other, longer essays, you might want to have 2 or even 3 reasons why that thesis is true. Taking our original thesis, we can add to it by writing something like, "Foreign invasions caused the Western Roman Empire to fall because the central government lost control of the provinces, and those provinces were under the control of Germanic kings." Now, when you write the rest of your essay, you're going to have 2 points of focus for your research. The one is that the central government lost control of the provinces, and 2, that those provinces were under the control of German kings. Okay, so we have our thesis and 1 or 2 supporting reasons to support that thesis. You're going to hold on to that thesis, but now we need to back it up with our research and the middle of our essay, which is going to be our body paragraphs. Now hang on, I know what you might be thinking. You might be thinking, don't we want to figure out our introduction first? No. I know this is going to seem a little bit strange, but the introduction is most likely going to be one of the last pieces of the essay that you'll need to write. That's because when the essay is being written, there's a very good chance that you've already found research that supports your thesis. Researching quality sources is a video topic of its own, but there's a couple of general tips that I can give to help you find good sources. First, don't use AI by itself. Avoid it for academic writing as much as you can. Now, if there's a general piece of information that you're looking up, that's fine, but make sure you follow up with checking where the AI got that information. What was the source and what was the use of the source, as long as it's reputable, right? You don't want to pick something that was written by some blogger that doesn't really have any historical knowledge. You want to pick something that's written by a historian or somebody that's done their own research. Sometimes it's pulling directly from well-researched materials that I've just mentioned, but sometimes it could be jumbled with conventional opinions and false online rumors that it doesn't actually provide you with any honest history, and your teacher might call you out for that. We teachers have seen all sorts of bad information that gets combined with historical research because the student took the AI overview from Google as serious research. Now, second, there's an old adage that said that we should have our students completely avoid Wikipedia. And I don't blame folks for telling people to avoid Wikipedia. As your teacher doesn't want you using it, don't use it. But I will say that Wikipedia and other encyclopedias can be useful if you use them correctly. For Wikipedia articles, when you find information that is useful, be sure to find the citation or the source that supports that piece of information, and then go directly to that source. This can give you an actual academic source to look through and get more information. But it might also be an opinion article written by a journalist that isn't so reputable as a secondary source compared to a historian or an actual researcher. Now from there, find direct quotes or researched information from those sources. That way, you'll have used Wikipedia to bring you to the main sourced research, and you don't have to dig around any further. Another great place to look is using library research sites provided by your school, or just use Google Scholar, which has a lot of academic articles that can be used for an academic setting. As one final point, there are many sources provided by your teacher, your professor, your client, or your employer. You should use them. To the folks who are scoffing at this, if you've ever had a professor require students to purchase their authored textbook, guess what? They've given you a source, a free material to use, so use it. Have you ever had an employer ask a writer to include specific provided demographic data into a report that they need by COB Thursday? Yep, provided source. Now that doesn't stop you from checking other places, but please use what's given to you. Now with these 2 points in mind, how to use AI appropriately, try to avoid it when you can, and how to use encyclopedias such as Wikipedia appropriately, it should be obvious. Don't copy and paste from AI or Wikipedia directly. Trust me, we already know how you write. If you have a hard time capitalizing the first words of every sentence or people's names, and then suddenly you discover the shift key, we know that you've copied and pasted. If your writing uses words that you don't know the meaning of, and you can't tell me what the words travesty and militate mean when we ask you, then we know that you've copied and pasted. If you regularly misspell and fail to correct your writing when you submit something, and then you can't replicate what you wrote with your own handwriting, then we know that you've copied and pasted. There's another reason why AI is really bad to copy and paste. I mean, besides the obvious, is that you need to learn how to communicate like an adult without AI assistance. It's because in many cases, AI doesn't actually provide you what your teachers want. If I ask you to write a persuasive essay about why the Western Roman Empire fell, AI will give expository list of various reasons and then end with a flowery conclusion that has that sugary, sweet, inoffensive language that doesn't really demonstrate any original thought. Seriously, when I read that garbage, it makes me want to vomit. Don't submit it. Furthermore, AI will naturally be inclined to take multiple perspectives or different sides of an argument, which defeats the entire purpose of a persuasive essay, which is to ask you to take one side, fully support it, in order to demonstrate your ability to take a position and defend it with a researched opinion. Remember, give your teacher what they want. If you fail at this, you're going to fail your paper. Again. Oh, and by the way, there's a lot of influencers who have made TikToks and Reels and Shorts about how AI is too good for teachers and teachers are lying when we say that we can detect AI. Now, first off, go ahead. Feel free to take advice from an influencer who hasn't been in high school for a decade or two. See how that ship sails. Second off, yes, you will probably have some lazy teachers who don't actually read through what your work is in order to find out that you slapped on some AI generated language and they're going to slap a grade onto it. We all know that there are those teachers, but you never know which teacher that's going to be and which teacher actually figures out how dumb you are because you rent your brain out to Sam Altman. Do you really want to risk your grade and your time for that? Furthermore, if you're an employer and you have an employee that turns in AI generated crap, fire them. You can do that yourself for free and save a lot of money. My advice, don't hide your brilliance behind AI's stupidity. So, now you've gotten your sources all together to support your thesis. Awesome. Now you need to write the essay's body paragraphs. But wait, how are those body paragraphs going to be built? You do have an outline to organize your essay, right? If not, make sure that you have one, sentence by sentence, as a bulleted list or as a chart to keep your ideas together. That way, we'll know how each paragraph and each section is going to work in your essay. Remember, if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. Okay, we all know that that's not always true, but outlines really do help out with the writing process. And guess what? Because you wrote a closed thesis statement, as I recommended, you already have the topic for each body paragraph. Taking our example of the Western Roman Empire, your first topic sentence could come from the first reason that the central government lost control of the provinces. You'll definitely want to rephrase that to something like, the provinces of the Western Roman Empire could not be controlled by and supported by the central government, or the central Roman government failed to maintain control over the territory of the empire. Something like that. Then, once you have that first topic sentence, you'll support that with each reason from each of your sources, such as your primary sources, which are sources that are written at the time of the history being covered, and secondary sources, which are reputable sources written afterwards, but are reporting on an event. First, write down what the source is, whether it's a historian writing about an event from the 1900s or a direct witness to an event. Then, if you're looking for something to quote directly, congratulations, you've found it. Now, as a warning, different teachers may or may not like a direct quote used from these sources. But a quick quote from a source can phrase a piece of evidence nicely to support a reason or a topic sentence. Now, once you've got that, you can further summarize the quote as to what it means and how it connects to what your original reason and what your thesis is. You'll want to follow what your teacher wants, but I think it's okay. If they're okay with using direct sources, I think it's a good idea to have one or two properly cited sources using the desired format that supports your reasoning. Now, sources might be visual as well. And if you're going to use a visual source, make sure you're describing what's happening. What does the source look like? For example, if I see a set of coins, and one has the Chi Rho as well as a Roman Empire, and then I see another coin that shows a fugly looking cross and a dude with a crown and a mustache, I get an idea of what happened. Mustaches became super popular. Oh, and the Roman Empire got beaten by German kings who started minting their own coins and therefore taking control of the territory. As a rule of thumb, I recommend 2 or 3 sources for each reason, depending on the level of language you're expecting for your teacher. AP classes, college classes, you may need more, and if you're writing just a quick piece, you might need fewer. This gives enough insight from academics or historical witnesses to support each reason, which in turn then supports your thesis. Now, as a bonus, you'll want to find a way to synthesize your sources or connect them in order to support your thesis. If you have a set of coins, as mentioned earlier, along with an eyewitness account from a Roman nobleman who had to pay Germans not to raid his estates, Then you can combine those two sources to show how the coinage and the tax collection was being handled by the Germans and not by the Roman Empire. Make this as clear as day by naming your sources and connecting them to that synthesis. For the rest of the body paragraphs, you're going to repeat the process with as many reasons to have supporting your thesis. Now, it might be that you have enough sources to extend the content to have more than one body paragraph for each reason. That's totally fine. For reference, a paragraph is going to have between 4 to 10 sentences, depending on what your teacher wants. Of course, the structure is the most important part here. If it makes sense to take a large paragraph and split it into 2 paragraphs, then feel free to do that. If, however, it makes better sense to have one really big paragraph that goes beyond 10 sentences, then go ahead. That's part of the creative process that you don't really get with AI-generated content. Okay, so now that you have the real research of the essay put together as your body paragraphs, and you're connecting it back to your thesis, you're already well on your way to having a great essay. And the best part is you've done a lot of the work. So now we can shift to the conclusion and to the introduction. So let's go ahead and do the conclusion first. Now, first of all, unless your teacher really wants you to do this, please don't start your conclusion with, "In conclusion." We get it. It's the last paragraph of the essay. We're not stupid. We only play dumb on TV. Instead, start by taking your thesis and rephrasing it in a new way. Now remember, our original thesis was foreign invasions caused the Western Roman Empire to collapse because the central government lost control of the provinces, and those provinces were under the control from Germanic kings. But we can shift around the various clauses in the sentence to essentially say the same thing, just with slightly different words. We can now start our conclusion with the loss of control from the provinces and the land under control of Germanic kings, the Western Roman Empire collapsed because of foreign invasion. See? Same thing, just different placement, and the clauses just turn out a little bit differently. We do this in order to remind our reader, our teacher or employer, about the main idea, why they just read our magnificent masterpiece. Next, we want to provide a connection of the sources to that thesis. Now, ideally, you would take one source from each reason that support the idea as a whole. Kind of like another version of a synthesis. You're just combining everything that you've done the research and putting it all together to support that thesis. Remember, the point of the conclusion is not to provide any new sources or direct historical content, but rather to sum up what the argument was in order to make additional connections. But, what does that even mean? To do this, you're going to connect whatever you're covering to today or to other historical events. If you're, for example, talking about this topic, think about how other invasions have forced civilians to pay taxes to new governments. My brain immediately went to a large number of students who I've had from Afghanistan and have family living now under Taliban-controlled regions. The thing is that this doesn't have to be a perfect correlation. It could be a similarity with a few differences. I can immediately also think about comparing this to when an election happens and one political party takes a massive victory and takes over the government, and the other party has to step on the sidelines. One is kind of a military takeover, such as Afghanistan, and the other is a peaceful election. It's not quite the same, but it's still a connection that we can make to today that shows that we know and truly understand our stuff. Okay, now we've come to the hardest part of the essay. How do I start the thing? With the introduction, there's 2 things that you need to do. First, you gotta hook your readers in. And second, you gotta give basic context to what you're writing about. For the hook, there's a couple strategies you can do. You can write an opening hypothetical question. You can give a crazy scenario to bring your reader in. You can write about a modern day event that gives insight to what the readers are going to be reading about. You want to make sure that this is something that can bring your reader in, to encourage your reader to keep reading. As long as it has the potential to get your teacher or your reader to keep reading, you're in good hands. Actually, your teacher's going to read it no matter what, so you better make it good. After the hook, you'll want to give a little bit of context, basic historical information about what you're covering. This can be a sentence about an event that happened to bring us to your thesis, such as, most historians agree that the Western Roman Empire fell in the September of 476 AD. Or, if you're talking about another event later on, you could say something like, the 13th Amendment established that slavery would be illegal in the United States. This is if you're referring to the aftermath of the American Civil War. You can also set some operational definitions to clarify what terms you're going to be using and how you're going to be defining them. When writing about the American Revolution, you can write something like, a loyalist is an American colonist who was loyal to the British government, while a patriot is a colonist who desired independence from Great Britain. This lets your reader and you share the same vocabulary without any confusion. Good academic writing does this, while bad academic writing, and AI slop, doesn't. Okay, so now that you have those two pieces, how are you going to wrap up your introduction? Simple. Your thesis statement. Yeah, that's it. Your thesis statement is the last piece of the introduction. And with that, you're done. The steps I go through when I'm planning out my essay is to first come up with my thesis, then to outline and plan out how my body paragraphs are going to use the research sources and connect back to those theses. Once I have my body paragraphs planned out, then I come up with my conclusion by connecting it back to my thesis and to the sources, as well as to any other events or circumstances that are happening today. And then finally, I look at my introduction. I come up with a hook and some common facts and historical content, and then end it back with the thesis statement. Once you have it all planned out on an outline, write it as a full paper using your beautiful language. Now, your teacher may have particular ideas about how long the essay might be, what citing format you'll need to use for your sources, whether or not you should be allowed to use direct quotes, and how many quotes or sources you should be using when you're supporting your thesis. To end, I'll end with some general advice. First, edit your work. Don't turn in typo-laden garbage. Second, write your own stuff. Don't have AI or a friend write it for you. We're gonna know when you do. Third, plan it out. Even if you don't think you need to, you do. And finally, give your boss what they want. Don't write something that doesn't follow the basic directions. I mean, you wouldn't build a Wayfair couch while following the directions to installing a dishwasher, would you? Do that with all of your assignments. You'll probably be fine. Use this guide to help you organize and to write your essays, and then you'll probably get a good grade. With that, good luck. We're all counting on you.